I've been doing all right. A little sick as of late, so lost my voice last Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Kind of got it back Tuesday, so that was weird.
Nice. Awesome.
Walking around with sticky notes and having people look at you weird, reading "I can't speak," and like
Aw.
trying to mime what you want.
That's like 3 days of voluntary charades. I love it.
Yeah, yeah, it was entertaining.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you have it back enough to do critique.
Yeah,
Are
me
you
too.
ready?
I suppose I am.
All right. So same thing as last time. You'll just go up and hit the screen share, and then tell me a little bit about the images. We'll roll through them real quick, and then we'll see where you are at level 9.
All right, so this first one here is actually the one I'd planned to show last, but it shows first, so here we go. Um, this is Tower Bridge in Sacramento. It's kind of one of the main bridges coming into Sacramento from West Sac, um, and it's actually quite an old bridge. I think it was built in 1935. So for the area, it's old. Obviously not as old as like Tower Bridge in London, um, but we take the name anyway. So it's a fairly often photographed bridge, but I hadn't seen a photo exactly like this. That's kind of from this angle and getting the light trails and everything. So I sat out there for a while and took probably a dozen or so images of car lights going by just to get enough good pictures that I could kind of composite them together. So the light
Mm.
trails here actually aren't all one image. They're composited from a few different ones. And I got the yellow lights kind of going through the middle there that are actually from a bus. So it's
Nice.
identifying like the stop coming up and everything. So um, there was no clouds in the sky that day, which I was bummed about at the time, but I actually kind of like how it turned out with just the clean, crisp blue sky, and then the wet ground, and then the lights going through. It has a really good sense of motion and movement throughout the whole thing.
I agree. I was actually thinking that before you said that. I'm usually not a fan of the big empty skies, and I'll composite in clouds if there aren't. But I think in this one, lots of puffy clouds would actually distract from the image overall because you have all of these leading lines with the bridge and the light. It's very geometrical. So I think, puffy and softer curvatures would actually distract rather than enhance the image. This is probably one of my favorite light trail images that I've seen. There's been a few brought to critiques, and I see them all the time in my newsfeed. And I'm usually not attracted to them, but this one I like. I like that the lines tend to lead up. You picked a really good angle to be at for the sake that the beginning of the bridge actually leads you up to the top of the bridge, but then you also have the lines of the light leading you into the center. So it's all kind of pulling you with this forward momentum that I think is really good. Um, and if you hadn't told me, I would not have known this is a composite, and I'm pretty good at picking them out usually. So
Yes.
well done in the joining of them. So I really don't have too much negative critique. There isn't anything that's really pulling me away from it. It's pretty well composed and positioned, and I really don't have any negative critique for you. So I guess that means you get a 3 for your image. That would have been a good one to end on, but starting off strong and good as well.
Well, hopefully I'll end strong too. So,
Good. All right, next image.
not sure if it's done loading. There we go. So this is actually just down the street from the Tower Bridge. This is Old Town Sacramento, known for railroads and all that good stuff. So here's a little railroad sign. I actually took this on an Instagram meet one day. Um, I like shooting into the sun sometimes, especially if you do, again, kind of HDR-ish composite stuff because you get those cool backlit light streaks kind of coming through and across some of the items. Like you have the light bleeds going over the circular sign here. Um, the couple things that I got critiqued on, Tom had mentioned the rope in the bottom. maybe somehow cloning that out or adjusting it to where you don't get that little bit of rope in the bottom right-hand corner. And to me, ideally, maybe that giant blue building wouldn't be in the background because that kind of wrecks like the old-looking image to, and that has just kind of this harsh blue line. But I think it works as it is still. Um, I just kind of like this kind of asymmetricalness of it with the bright red sign on the right-hand side that kind of draws your eye to it, but then there's the really bright sun. So you have kind of the bright sun and the red sign that are kind of competing for your attention. You kind of move around that way, and the rope, I think, on the bottom kind of helps move
Hmm.
around as well.
I agree, and I've said a couple of times in different images that um, you can't tell who the star of the image is supposed to be, and that they're in competition, and you need to define that. But here, I don't necessarily think that the sun and the sign are competing as much as it is that they're just performing a duo together, and it works really nicely with the sun glare coming across the sign. I do completely agree with you about the building in the background. I think that's killing it. I would be inclined to edit that out because you have this very warm kind of almost like sunlit sepia tone thing going on, and then blue and
Yeah.
less, and so it kind of ruins the mood of it for me. It's like that building totally photobombed your photo. um, so I'd be very very strongly inclined to take that out. The rope doesn't necessarily bother me because of the way that it's going down. I think that if you cloned it out of that bottom corner just on the one side, that you would feel the absence of it and actually look for it and go, well, where does it come back up? Because you can follow the line of it.
Yeah.
Um, so that doesn't bother me as much. But I guess it's a pole or the beginning of a building all the way on the end just above the post where the rope connects, and that little bit coming off the frame, that bothers me. I'd be inclined to crop it in just a little bit closer to get rid of that so that you started at the tree and not at whatever
Hmm.
that is.
Yeah.
Um, there's also something on the wall behind the sign, and you have this little white corner
Yeah.
coming out that distracts me a lot. I would definitely look at cloning that out and fixing that. Um, but I agree with you that I don't mind that it's a little asymmetrical and that you're seeing that asymmetry come in the rope and stuff, because you also have things on the left hand side that aren't on the right, like the post and the box behind it and whatever
Yeah.
that is. Um, so it looks like it was intentionally done. The building and that little white corner, whatever that is, that has to go for it to be a winner for me. And probably cropping in just a little bit so that whatever that line is on the left-hand side is also gone. But I'm going to give you a 2 for this one. It's a high 2, but I think those things would have put it over the edge to a much better photograph.
Cool.
So, next one.
Next one. Yet again, Sacramento. Find a theme here with everything being from Sacramento. Um, this one is actually some newer buildings, kind of in the reflections there. Sacramento is kind of known as the city of trees. Sadly, we're not known for the city of water right now since there's such a big drought. But this was one occasion in which it rained and some of the leaves fell into the water. I just thought it was kind of a nice, pleasing image because these buildings are fairly cool in temperature. They're kind of white and the glass kind of has a blue hue to it. On rainy days, sometimes that blue hue goes away because of the clouds. I thought it was cool to get kind of like the bright yellow flowers in the water and then the reflection of the buildings in the background. Played around with cropping a lot on this one. Actually posted it up in the community with a couple different crop versions to see who liked what most. There is a wider crop version that shows a little bit more of the building, more of the sidewalk behind, kind of the arc of the sidewalk. But everybody said the closer version worked out better. So I like it because it shows kind of a close-up of the leaves and kind of says that Sacramento is a city of trees, and we do have 2 rivers here, so there's a lot of water. So for that aspect, I like it.
Mm. I love the idea of this photograph, and I'm a huge fan of playing with reflections and seeing things from different perspectives than we usually do, especially because people are usually looking forward and up, not down. So it's a totally um, different view to see the buildings from. I do feel like in this one they're competing for each other, though. You don't know whether you want to look at the leaves or the building.
Hmm.
And I think that there's so much information in both with the color and the veining of the leaves and the splotchiness of them because of the fall. There's so much texture in that, and then there's so many lines and geometrical patterns and shapes in the building, um, that I feel like they're almost canceling each other out in terms of
Hmm.
what you want to look at.
Hmm.
Um, I would be interested to see you try to reshoot this, but to shoot it at a much shallower depth of field where you make one or two of the leaves like this little pile that you kind of have going in the forefront here,
Hmm.
where the focus is on them, so that you're still getting the idea of the buildings, um, but that you're losing them in the depth of field and the focus, so that it's just nodding to the idea of them rather than featuring them as prominently. And then
Yeah.
in the same measure, doing another shot where you're focusing on the reflection and letting the buildings be the star, and the leaves are sort of an afterthought that are clogging it up. But I'm not sure that it works right now as is. But I'm also not sure that it doesn't. I'm very conflicted about this photograph. Um, I do love the idea of it, and I do love that you're seeing things from an artist perspective to the point that you're noticing these things that a lot of people walk right past without ever looking at. I think that is, definitively the mark of an artist, and what we're supposed to do is, help people see things in ways that they don't see them.
Hmm.
So I do think that you accomplished that. There's just I don't know. It's just there's a lot of information.
Just say it. You
Um,
don't like it. No.
I'm not sure that I don't like it though. It's not that I don't like it, but I don't love it either. And
Yeah.
I feel like I should because it is such an interesting perspective. So I think that this is one where you're on to something. I
Yeah.
just don't think that you quite hit what the potential is, but I also don't know what the potential was. So I would be inclined to encourage you to do a similar concept and just
Yeah.
play with it and play with depths of focus and play with your perspective and your lines and where you are in relation to that for perspective and what angle you're shooting at. Because I do think that it has the potential to be like a monumental, like wow piece that people can't stop looking at. And I think that's what's bothering me is that it's a good photograph, but it's totally giving the impression that it has the ability to be an incredible photograph. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So I'm gonna give you a two for this one
All
because
right.
I'm conflicted over it.
All right. The next shot here is again Sacramento. This is actually K Street. Um, K Street's kind of like one of the main streets in Sacramento. It's been kind of redone several times. Its latest iteration, they actually opened the street back up to car traffic because it had been opened only to public transit traffic for the longest time. So that's actually what we're
Mm.
seeing here is the yellow border on the left-hand side where you're not supposed to stand in front of when you're waiting for the train. And the right-hand side is leading off to the tracks, and there just so happened to be this one little plant um, in this very in this long row of very urbanized stuff, and this one little plant was kind of peeking through, and everything else was hard plastic, metal, and concrete. Um,
Nice.
so I thought that was
Um,
interesting.
I love this one, and this is exactly what I was trying to get at with the previous photo with the change in perspective. I think that this kind of line of sight would set that one over the top. But as far as this one goes, I love the juxtaposition of nature versus humanization, and us conquering it all the time, and the fact that we never actually conquer it. I'm having the same problem with my driveway right now. I love the shallow depth of field and that it's focused on this little, this little tiny plant taking over this major poured concrete. I think that's very symbolic, and there's a lot of strength in that. I think I'd have been wanting to maybe in post just soften up the depth of field so that you almost get like a blur vignette just on the edges, because I keep wanting to go
To the sides.
to the sides and away from the plant, and I definitely feel like the plant is the star of the photograph. So I might be inclined to go in and just soften that up ever so slightly so that it leads you into the plant instead of away from it.
Yeah.
The only other thing that's kind of bothering me is the green lights, because they're so out of focus that you just kind of have these like pentagon shapes, and they're really splotchy, and common sense leads you to understand their green lights, but there's not enough information for them to be essential to the image. So
Yeah.
I'd recommend going in and cropping those out. But I love the concept of the photo, and I do love the execution of it. So even with those two things, I still think it's a really beautiful photograph. It's going to just skirt over the edge to 3 points for me. But I think if you do those two very subtle things, that it would definitely score 3 without a second thought.
Cool.
Cool. Next
On
one.
to the last one then. So final image in, I guess, reverse order is the Capitol itself. I live right across the street from this, basically, so I see it pretty much every day. Which after a while to me is like, oh, that's right, people don't see this building every day. So I've shot it and around it quite a bit. In level 8, I think I had 3 different, maybe 4 different images of it. So it's something that is obviously shot often, but again, kind of like the bridge, this isn't necessarily an angle that I'd seen. The Capitol is also Capitol Park, so it's good square mile or 2 of just plants all around. Camellia flowers is one of them that is popular. So one day walking, saw a camellia flower and put it in the water and took this shot. And
I love the idea of this photo, and I really love that you're showing things that people see every day in a way that people never see them. Or don't notice them. I think that's important. When you can take something that people look at every single day and show it to them in a way that makes them take notice of it, I think that you've succeeded. So I would want to give this one a 3, but I'm not gonna. I love the idea of adding the flowers to the element, but I feel like from the angle that you're at that it's a good idea, but it didn't pull off in the execution. I think the flower needed to be more of the focus and take up more of the image. So if you'd been down closer to it, I think that it would have been a little more prominent in competing, instead of an afterthought that looks like it accidentally got in the way. Again, the idea of like this unintentional photobomb, it works in your favor in this time because it's this juxtaposition of, the floral and the building, but I want to see the details of the petals, and we're losing, and this may be, digitally based, but we're losing a little bit of the center of the flower and the highlights. Which I have the feeling the information is there, but we can't discern it because of how far away it is. So I feel like this one would probably work really well as a big print, but it doesn't as a small digital file when it's on, because there's not enough information with the flower. So I think if we zoomed in, you could probably cut out, I guess this is a tree on the one edge. I would be inclined to crop it in. And down, and just keep like the cap of the tower, rather than like say the top 1.5 inches of the image, and crop it in. And I would also get rid of the negative space at the bottom. and crop it just slightly below the top of the top of the cap, and see if that helps it. I feel like you have a lot of non-essential information that's taking up probably a third of the image that doesn't need to be there necessarily. I think it would be stronger if it was zoomed and cropped in,
Hmm.
um, so that the flower could have equal show. Um, so yeah. I'd also probably be inclined to go in and just dodge and burn a little bit and just pull out just a little bit more of the texture and the shape of the building,
Hmm.
um, and maybe just touch up with the levels and the curves a little bit just to make that a little bit more prominent, because it's hard because you're doing it as a reflection, but it's still looking a little flat and two-dimensional because of the light. But you could very easily go in and in post and punch that up a little bit, and I think that that would be stronger as well. So I'm
Cool.
gonna give you a 2 for this one. I like it, and you're almost there, but I think that this one needs a little bit of playtime, I think, to really
Yeah.
um, bring it up. So
Cool.
well done. Okay, so you can turn off the screen share so I can see your handsome face.
Oh
Oh, do
no.
we have another one? Did we bring
No.
you more?
I was going to show you the original version of the.
Mm.
I moved the flower down.
Aw. Now, you know what, though? I think I like it where it is, though.
Well, it's an object in Photoshop now, so it can go where I mean where I damn well please. So
Don't you feel powerful when you do that?
yeah.
Okay.
All right. And
All
then
right. So you're at level 9. You just passed to level 9.
I
How are you
did.
feeling after your foundation spheres?
It's been a while since I've done anything significant, so uh, still a little bit behind, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
So,
Um, well, the next steps are you write me a review and let me know what you loved and what you hated and what needs to change and all that good stuff. And drop me an email, and then you join Sphere One. And so we're doing Sphere One totally different than pretty much every other cohort because
oh, of course.
yeah, because that's what we do.
Yeah.
Um, but with Sphere Zero, everybody was kind of following the same path. When you get to Sphere One, everybody branches off based on their own personal journey and what it is you guys are trying to accomplish. And we talked about this a little bit in level 4, but I've noticed almost everybody's answers have changed as they're sort of self-discovering. So
Yeah.
if I could wave my little magic Arcanum wand and get you exactly where you want to be, assuming that at level 20 that you were leaving the Arcanum because you will leave House Lark,
Yeah.
what is it that you're looking to accomplish? Where are you looking to go?
For now, I'm still thinking ideally just kind of doing it on the side, not necessarily doing it as a career.
Okay.
But kind of, I mean, because I like what I do some of the time at work, not all the time, but I like keeping the photography aspect kind of something that I do to kind of get away from that. Um,
Okay.
and it's something I enjoy, but I've done stuff before where I enjoy and then it becomes my job and then it's not so fun anymore. So I don't want to have to like,
Why do you think that is?
it's just when I don't do it for myself, when other people are saying, oh, you didn't do this right or you need to do it this way, or that gets frustrating and annoying sometimes. Not that the person's annoying, but it's just like, I think it could be done a better way and they're not listening to my advice kind of thing. So that's kind of the annoying aspect.
Okay. Um, well, in theory, assuming with the kind of work that you're doing, you're not like a portrait photographer or somebody that would have necessarily clients coming in and commissioning work from you that they would be putting in. You would be more of like a fine art photographer.
Yeah.
So I mean, do you not want to? Is this just something fun that you're doing and a hobby, or is this something that you would like to monetize if you were, say, selling your prints where
No,
you get to create them?
I'd like to monetize it in some form, but it wouldn't necessarily be my sole purpose of income.
Okay.
Um, and then as far as portraits go, I've done some. I do actually quite a few at work because I'm that guy at work that does all of the weird things that nobody else does because I know how to
Okay.
use a camera. So it's something that I've been doing more, and it's not more entertaining, but it's entertaining sometimes, and it's fun to play around with. Um, so been toying around with trying to get a little bit more into portrait type work, um, be it for friends or family or whatever, because it's also generally a little bit more. You're a little bit more able to monetize like the portrait work than you are fine artwork, unless you know.
Okay. So you just said two very conflicting things. You started out with, I want
Oh
to do
yeah,
it on the side and I don't want to monetize it because then I won't love it. And then you said, I want to get into portraits because it's easier to monetize. So,
I am very undecided. Clearly,
okay.
much like you on what was it, the leaves picture?
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's I don't know where I'm going necessarily with it. Um, so I kind of like the kid in the candy store in which I want to try everything at once. Um,
Okay. If you could make the same exact amount of money, let's assume for the sake of argument that this was your career. If you
yeah.
could make the same amount of money showing images like you showed today as you could taking portraits, would you still be interested in looking into portraits, or is that a decision you're making based off of the idea that it's easier to monetize?
Uh, I guess going towards it wouldn't necessarily be wholly because it's easier to monetize. It's entertain. I get more joy out of doing the portraits because you're interacting with people,
Okay.
and less of like, hey, I'm going to make money off this.
Okay.
Because I enjoy kind of at times like interacting with the people I take portraits of at work. Whereas like if I'm doing photos of the bridge like that, I'm sitting there in the cold, wet environment by myself for an hour and a half, sitting there like pressing the shutter release. And like, man, it'd be kind of nice if somebody else was around right now. Like, so there's times in which I like taking photos of people because you get that interaction, but then there's times where I like just being off by myself and doing the photos that I do.
Okay. Um, so you're in the Arcanum and you're investing all this time and money. What is it that you want to get out of that investment?
Really kind of improving so far the images that I've done, and I think I have um, gotten better. All the images I showed this time were all new images. Um, I've pulled stuff in prior critiques and submissions and stuff from as far back as like 2005. So I was glad that I got out and did more new work. And according to my scores, was fairly successful, good work for the level I'm at. Um, so it's one having kind of that good critique base that you can when you have a question you can go ask, and it's not like posting on Facebook and having your mom say that's amazing because
Right.
they'll always say that regardless.
Not
Um,
my mom.
oh, my mother. So the second, well, yeah, I guess your images might be a little bit different too. So, um, your the second thing is kind of having that community that you can go to if you're just totally stuck against the wall. Not necessarily about content of like how do I this image isn't composed right, but it's like how do I dodge and burn this Capitol dome to make it look correct.
Right.
Chances are in the community you'll find somebody that has maybe watched every single video in the Grand Library and can tell you exactly which video to watch.
Tom.
Or, yeah, or someone like your master will turn you on to Aaron Nace and tell you about Flern, and then you can, go watch, 10 hours of his videos and think you can do everything under the sun. So it's having kind of those resources there to guide you in the correct direction and kind of give you their own take on successes and failures as far as like editing or shots go. So I liked the
Okay.
post about the succeeding in adverse conditions that you had people post images for, because that was interesting to see that not everybody just succeeds right away on whatever condition they're in.
Okay. So community is the resounding thing that's, the value for you.
Yeah.
For Sphere 1, though, on a personal level, not considering them, what are you looking to improve on?
So I just launched my little website, so I'm blogging on there now. I'm trying to figure out how best to go about that. Um, as far as length of post, frequency, images, kind of the whole getting website set up and running successfully and attracting visitors and getting people looking at the pictures, so in theory I can monetize. Um, I also want to push a little bit more to get out and shoot more because I haven't been shooting as much, um, partially because it was cold here.
Shut up.
Heavy quotation marks on that one because I know where you're from. So,
What did it get down to 50 for you?
it was a really, really balmy, like 63. No, no,
You're
it got
fired. I'm
it
not
did.
even taking you to Sphere 1. Get out.
No, it got down to like the 30s and stuff, which isn't too bad.
Ooh,
I
that's
know.
almost like real cold.
Yeah, almost, almost. Um, uh, but I've been doing more like stuff outside of photography lately, like trying to do a workout thing. So my time's been shortened a little bit. Um,
Okay.
so trying to squeeze photography back in there and make sure it's something I do consistently. Um,
Okay. And as far as your photography goes, lighting, composition, retouching, all the different details. How are you feeling in all of that, and where do you feel that you need some work?
I feel like I still do a little bit of the spray and pray of just I'm going to take 30 images and I hope one works. Um,
Okay.
I think maybe focusing a little bit more on composition ahead of time. The bridge shot, it pulled off well because I thought about it ahead of time. The flower in the Capitol shot was more like, ooh, this might work. Um, and so I guess a little bit more pre-planning on some of the shots that I want to do. Um, because it shows that if I do that, it works out well. Um, lighting, I'm still, well, natural light, I'm fairly good. Artificial light of any sort, I'm not that great. Um, so learning a little bit more about artificial lighting um, would be advantageous as well.
Okay. Now with artificial light, are we considering that for some of your outdoor work? And because it
No,
takes a good bit of light to light like a big building.
no, that would be more, I guess, if I'm kind of splitting my hairs and doing largely landscapes, cityscape stuff, and then exploring into portrait type stuff. Um,
Okay. Um, so let's go back a minute because I do want you to kind of work your way through this because you're in between this place of I want to do it on the side so that I love it, and I'm making these choices based off of my want to monetize it,
yeah,
which are in direct conflict. So it's really hard to get somewhere if you're going, I want to go this way because I don't want to go that way, but I think I'm going to go that way because I might go that way even though I'm going this way. Like, you can take multiple paths, but you can't take paths in the opposite directions. So, um,
there's a multiverse, damn it. Yes, I can. No.
okay, well, the other version of you can take whichever one this version doesn't take.
Yeah.
So,
Um, so just rehashing what I'm doing and what I'm doing it for.
more importantly, why?
Why?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't want to monetize. Why?
No good reason to not
Okay.
monetize.
Well, it is a good reason, and it's a very common reason for a lot of people to say that they're concerned that if they focus on monetizing, that they'll lose the passion side of it because they'll start doing it for the money.
Well,
You know.
that's what I said before, and
Hmm.
I do feel that is true to a point. But I think if I'm monetizing on like my own plans, your own terms, and not going out and getting a bunch of contract work and saying, we need 46 images that are all super wide that will fit a website banner, and you can't have photos of kids with no photo releases, but you have to have faces of kids that have photo. Like, I'm just describing a shot that I did, and it was horrible. So,
Okay.
as long as I'm monetizing on my own and kind of self-marketing, here's my pictures with my website, and if you want to buy it, great. If not, okay. I think that would be the better way to monetize it. I also
Okay.
think making it not my sole income would be the way to not kill that passion aspect of it. And because I wouldn't be stressing of, oh crap, I haven't sold anything like this week or this month. Like, that's gonna hurt me, and I have to produce. If I have a steady job, that I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about that. And if I sell something, it's hooray and
Got
yay.
it.
But
Yeah,
I'm not.
enticing. Okay.
Yeah,
So on the other side, let's talk about why you do want to monetize then.
more money's nice.
Okay.
I mean, that's nice, but I also think I do good work. Not to say I'm conceited and saying my work is amazing, but I like the pictures I take, and other people like the pictures I take, and I feel like sometimes I would like other people to appreciate those, and wherever that may be that they see them. Um, and I am very territorial over my work because I've taken some pictures and people have used them at work for social media, and then horribly cropped them and applied Instagram filters, and I was like, no, because I was very, very angry. But I'm like, if I could just sell my own work, the pictures that I do, I could make more money.
Okay, so there we go. Now we're getting to the point of it. We like the idea of making money. More money is good. Everybody agrees with that. I also think that uh, on a different level from the financial effect on your lifestyle, that a lot of people like the idea of getting paid because it's another way of validating your work. When people are willing to part with their hard-earned money in
Yeah,
order to have something that is essentially a luxury item, not a necessity for life, it validates that what you're doing is good, that you are a good artist.
yeah.
I'm writing in your notes for Sphere One that you're territorial and no Instagram filters.
Oh, I do Instagram filters on my stuff, but it's when people take my photo, crop it to like this much of the image, and
Right.
then apply an Instagram filter so it's pixelated and way more warm than it used to be. That's where I'm like,
No. Okay. So, um, so with the concept, I think that if you don't like the idea of working for other people and them having say over what you're doing and giving you a hard time, you're going to hate portrait work.
yeah, probably.
Because the one thing that people, because now you're having conflicting egos in the sense that the artist doesn't want his work altered,
Yeah,
um, but the model is very concerned about the fact that it's their face and figure and image, and so they have a very specific idea of how they want it to look and be, and um,
yeah,
so as you build that up, it's good. Like most of my clients now, they just trust me to create beautiful work because I built that reputation. But the first year, it was a lot of back and forth in understanding the difference between how a subject will look at an image of themselves as opposed to how the artist will look at the image they created of someone else, and where the value lies for both of them, because it's not synonymous.
yeah.
Um, and I don't know that you've ever actually brought portraits to critique. You tend to stay more in the landscape and cityscape. So
Well,
I
Sphere
feel
One will
like,
bring only portraits. No.
yeah. I mean, we can do that. I can build that if that's
Yeah,
what you want to do. Is if you're really focused on wanting to break into that, we can make that the focus for 10 levels to help build you into that if that's somewhere you want to go. But if you're leaning to that because you think it's easier to monetize, I'm going to make the argument that more landscape photos are sold than any other kind of photograph as far as um, fine art
yeah,
and an image that somebody else purchases that's not of themselves. Like portrait photography is service and product based. So you have the service of I'm doing this for you because you have needed these photos, weddings, portraits, documenting ages and families and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Whereas all the other kinds of photography are product based. I'm creating this, and if you like this, you can buy it.
Yeah.
So I think that we could work very easily to build you a business that monetizes around the idea of the work that you're doing and would make just as much or more money as starting portraits, especially if your heart's not in it.
Yeah. Cool.
So you tell me.
Landscapes.
Okay. See, yeah, don't get into portraits because you said that way too definitively and without hesitation. Okay. Um, so with landscapes and with doing your work, how do you feel about licensing your images, and how do you feel about people having the digital rights to them? And
That's one area I guess I'm not as well versed in, is what all that means. So like the different type of licenses, like when can I use it, when can they use it. Um, Law jargon is never very clear. So
okay. Okay, so well, we're gonna get into that in your sphere one so that you have an understanding. But the simple breakdown of the matter is that they have whatever you decide to give them. You can set it up however you want. Just understand that if it's not serving their purposes, that they'll be more likely to buy from somebody else.
yeah,
So in general, you can create work that people can buy as prints and as digital files for anything from, computer backgrounds to marketing materials. They can buy the full rights to them, meaning they can do whatever they want with them and use them, in all their marketing and their advertising, and they can buy like one-time rights to have that image forever. Or they can have different licensing options where they can use it as often as they want for a period of 1 year. Or, like there's all kinds of different options to set it up. If you're not interested in pursuing it from a commercial standpoint of appealing to businesses, and you want people that look at it and go, I really love that image of this, little tuft of grass fighting the massive concrete, and I want that on my wall, then we look at more of a fine art and gallery approach and having people that purchase your art because it's art. It just depends on who you want to be and how much time you want to put in.
yeah, that's the
Big
time.
question.
Time, yeah, time is always kind of a constraint,
Okay.
unfortunately. But
All right. Well, let's talk about that. In an ideal scenario, how much time do you want to be able to put into your photography in, say, a given week
right
or
now,
month?
probably about 10 hours a week I could probably do,
10
which
hours a
isn't
week?
a lot, but yeah.
Okay. All right. I think I have enough to build your sphere one now.
All right.
Okay, so the next steps are you're going to go and you're going to get congratulated by everyone, and they're all going to go, oh, Morgan, you did such a good job, except for, the few that are going to be like, obviously you're still her favorite, even though you don't show up and say hi anymore.
I've been around the last week or so.
The last week. No, it's okay.
I'm like that
It's
uncle that
fine.
never visits, that everybody, yay, and then he just
Yeah,
sleeps on
everybody
the
loves.
couch.
He's never around long enough to annoy us. That's what it is. um, no, it's totally fine. Bruce just came back after being gone for like a month and a half. Everybody's traveling and moving, so it's good.
Yeah,
I like hearing it as long as whatever's keeping you away is good stuff.
yeah.
You know. So go get congratulated, and then at some point in the next couple of days, just drop me an email or drop me a note in the community and go, this is what I loved, what I hated, what should change, what shouldn't change, that kind of stuff. And then I'm gonna update you, and when I do, because it's gonna put you at level 10, it's gonna actually take you out of the community, and then you'll get an email that says JLark has invited you to Sphere 1 training, and you have to click accept.
Cool.
And then once you get in there, you'll see that where the foundation levels had like level one, two, three, four, it's going to have everybody's names instead.
Mm-hmm.
So there aren't individual levels, there's community names. So everything for you is under your name and it's yours and nobody else's. So you can go stalk and see what everybody else is up to. And then there's also a community discussion board called the Wishing Well. That is your first assignment. And then once I have that, then I build your Sphere 1 map. So it's usually about a week of downtime.
Cool.
So now's your time to do everything else that you've been meaning to do so you can hit the ground running in here.
Cool.
Okay?
Sounds good.
Questions, comments, concerns?
Nothing right now.
All right.
How's the bathroom?
I don't want to talk about it. It's got really pretty tile. Eventually, I'm gonna be able to bathe in it. I don't want to talk about it. It's getting there. It's getting there. So.
Cool.
All right. Well, you did very well, and I will see you at Sphere 1.
Yay!
Okay. All right. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.